class here. First of all, welcome, welcome. What a great day this is, and what a tribute to the one-room schoolhouses and to Long Creek School. There were probably about 60 country schools in Washington County, and to the best of my knowledge, this is probably the only one that survived. So it's quite an honor to be here and have our school. So we're going to have a little bit of a history lesson. There were three early pioneers: Elias Wilcox, Ellen Craig, and Thomas McDonald. They all came to the area about 1855, homesteaded, and they also knew that education was an important thing for their children. So the three of them, as well as some others, formed the Long Creek School District number 8 in April 25 of 1866. And they built their first little schoolhouse. It was down there by the creek. It was not where this school is located. It was down by the creek. And the cost of it was $201.38. And the well was an additional $70.50. So it was quite expensive. And we know all of this because this is the journal that Thomas McDonald kept, and he was the treasurer, and it starts with 1866. And I don't want to pass it around, but if any of you want to look at it later, you certainly can. It's page after page of all the expenditures for the school from 1866 to 1886. Here is just a page that would give you a flavor of his handwriting. It was all very, very neat. And so the journal tells us a lot about this school. So then, our first teacher at this school was, actually I should say that wrong. Our first teacher in the 1866 school was Emily Borlaug. She came to the Nebraska Territory in 1865 with her parents. They came by oxen team from Indiana. And upon her arrival, the Cumming City School District asked her about teaching, and so she said she would. So she taught at Cumming City. Well, a lot of the time, the school districts didn't have a lot of money. They would hire a teacher, and the teacher would teach as long as they had money. So then when the money ran out, the teacher had to find another job. Well, it was at that time that Long Creek was finished, so she came to Long Creek and was the first teacher. She had 14 students in 1866. Then, according to our journal again, Thomas wrote that in April of 1877, there was an article put in the Blair Times newspaper, bidding open for construction of new school. The school that they had built in 1866 was too small. So the 1877 school, which is this one, was built then, and it was built up the hill from the old one, and you all know where this one sat. It was up the hill, and the contractor built this school for $933, and that was in the fall of 1877. It opened for classes with Clara Dawson as the first teacher. She had about she had 25 students. Then the number of pupils varied over the years because many families, there were lots of kids, so if a large family moved in or out of the district, it made quite a difference in the school. But the 1890s, class size was generally around 40. 1902, when Mary Mortensen, you just recognized her, she had the biggest class of all. She had 62 kids. There were 3 to a seat. So that's more people in here. That was a lot of little bodies in here.
No wonder she left and got married.
She couldn't teach anymore because isn't that when her sister came?
Her sister Martha then took over.
Right, because she did get married, and so you couldn't teach anymore.
Right.
And so then, so her sister finished teaching the 62 kids that year. So that's a lot of little students in here. The teachers were the janitor, they were the nurse, they were the referee, and of course they taught all 8 grades, or as many grades is what was needed. And generally, of course, they were young ladies, and a lot of them, a lot of the students were not much younger than the teachers themselves. And in fact, as we just stated, the teachers usually had to quit teaching when they got married. So some students rode horses to school, and there was a shed in the back. And this school never had a well. They always had to get their water from the Orts. And I did marvel at the entries in the journal about the Orts charging for the water. So anyway, they had to get the water from the Orts and pay for it. And the boys and girls had chores around the school. They had to bring in the wood, and of course the water. They had to clean the slate boards. There were kerosene lamps to clean. There was the floor, and of course, if they had horses, they had to They had to feed their water their horses. And there was always a fence around the school because it sat in the Ort pasture. So there were other livestock around, so there was always a fence around the school. There were big shutters on the windows originally. It looked like just one shutter on the side, so it must have been almost like a door that closed over each window. I'm not sure. I saw a couple pictures. I'm not sure how that worked exactly. 1912 was when the front porch roof was added. 1925 is when all this beaver board was put up. The old plaster in the ceiling and the walls was deteriorating. They took it down and put beaver board on the ceiling as well. We didn't do anything with this except paint it. So that's the original 1925 beaver board. Then in 1927, they dug a cave, 6 feet wide, 6 feet long, 6 feet wide, 6 feet deep, and 16 feet long. Then in 1929, originally the school had a window here and here. We can still see where the window was. The slate board is over the top of it. It's just boarded up over on the outside. And of course then they made this back door. And again, it had been a window. I don't know why they wouldn't have put that back door in much sooner than 1929, but whatever. Then they put a new fence around the school too, and that was steel posts, so that was really uptown. And the big thing was in 1941, the school got electricity. So that was Jenica, do you think that going to school without electricity would be? Over the years, enrollment decreased and of course schools consolidated, and this school closed in 1969. Immediately upon the closing, the Long Creek Historical Association was formed with Clemens Booth Newman being kind of the one that guided that. He was born in Budapest, Hungary in 1896. His father died, so he and his mom came to the U.S. and they arrived in Omaha in 1903. She married William Newman. Booth Newman was an auctioneer, a barber, assessor, sign painter, salesman, welder. He just had many occupations. And he was active in the Long Creek School. And he wrote this poem. This poem has been on the blackboard for many years. The poem was written by Booth, but my mother wrote the poem on the board, and it was 1969. And how that survived all these years, I don't know, but it's still there. So we have plexiglass on that now, so it's preserved. Then, let's see, he was active, he wrote the poem. And the association met the last Sunday of June every year. They had a picnic at the school. Lots came for the first few years, and then the attendance began to die off. The last reunion was in 2011 when 4 people came, 2 of them being Randy and Linda. So not much of a crowd this year. sign is on right by the door when you came in. Again, the sign was made by Booth, and the sign says, the Long Creek Historical Association chartered June 15th, 1969. Whereas we of the association make this plea to the public. Please help us keep and preserve this old landmark as a historical shrine to the old pioneers who established this district over 100 years ago. And now here we are, 55 years later, in the year 2024. We have met the challenge and preserved this historical shrine. So I think we did it. So how did this all happen? The house was on the property of Randy and Linda Trulson. The association made repairs to it as needed for the first few years, and then that fell into Randy's. He had to take care of it, and one of the things he did to preserve the building was put a tin roof on there so that it would not deteriorate. In August of 2022, my cousin Jean and myself and our husbands visited the school. Remember, the county's country schools were always one of the most important assets to a community. That's where you had the 4-H meetings, you had ball games, Sunday school, family reunions, picnics, and so much more. Because the school was special to our parents and grandparents, often when Jean visited, we would go see Randy and the school. And that day, Randy said to us that he and Linda were worried and wondered, what will happen to the school? That evening, I kept thinking about that, about Randy's remarks. I'm on the board of directors for the museum, and I thought, we should do that. The museum should undertake that project. I presented it at the board meeting, and by October, we had voted to accept the offer, his kind gift of the school, and have it preserved. So we secured a mover, and here is what it looked like. And you won't be able to see it real well, but we secured a mover, and the mover told us right away that these two trees had to go. So that was about the first thing that we did in the fall of 22. Then there were a lot of bees in that front corner, lots of bees. And so we thought, well, we got to rehome the bees. So the walls were full of honeycomb when we took off the wainscoting, and there were lots of bees and honeycombs, and so we found a new home for them and got the honey out of there. That was about all that we could do before winter set in. Then in the spring, we emptied the school. All the desks and so forth were taken out. My brother Jack Lorsch came with his trailer and loaded up all the desks and the bookcase and so forth and took it to his place. We had a piano person come and take the piano out and on and on. So then we had that done. The floor was in very bad condition at the school. Other than paint it because we wanted to keep the old look. Nothing was done to the windows except the panels that were broken. We had those replaced with old looking glass. And when Bonnie painted the inside, she didn't paint the windows. She just put a clear coat on them so that they looked like they did. Look old. Then we put the boot scraper back in the concrete out in front that was at the other school, and we have the hitching posts that were from the other school, or from, I shouldn't say other school. We have the hitching posts from the school that are out here in front. And because the weather turned out nice last fall, we were able to put the sod in, and so we got pretty much all done. So it turned out really, 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 really nice. George Washington has always been there. We have the piano. The piano was purchased in 1921 by the students. Before that, there had never been a piano. And they sold social box lunches and put on plays to earn enough money to buy the piano. And we were going to tackle trying to clean that, and after a little bit, we decided that was way beyond anything we could do. So Tom Kapler came to our rescue. He took it to his shop, and he totally redid it. The moths had eaten every piece of the felt out of it, and so forth, and he spent several months working on it. It looks like brand new, and it's in really good shape. The school did have a map case, however, we don't know what happened to the Long Creek one. This one was donated to us by Tammy Fryman from the Sunnyside School here in Washington County. It's got some really old maps in it. Some of them are very, very fragile. The clock is a school clock. It has the days of the month around the outside, and that was from the ranch school, donated by Jack Lorsch. This desk, we weren't able to save the desk that was at the school. This one is loaned from the Lorenzen family, and it's from the Blair Community Schools. The stove in the corner here is from the Gary Watchker family, and that one's probably from the early, right around the 1900s, and it's a well-used stove. The 48 star flag is one that was at the school, as well as the globe, and that was the bookcase with the books that was at the school. So all of that is pretty original. The backdrop over here was not in this school. It was from the McCarthy School. Salesmen would come around. They had their scene painted, and they had the blank spaces there. Come around businesses, sell their businesses would buy the space and do their advertising. And then these backdrops were given to the schools. And that one went to McCarthy School. It's in really good shape. It was donated by Herb Holder from Blair. And it can just be rolled up, and we don't even know it's there. Normally they were at the front of the schools, and the backdrop, but we didn't want it up here in the front, so that's where we got that one. And I have a lot of journals with probably some of your names in them, and some of your grades. So if anybody wants to know. Oh, I need to mention this picture over here. I forgot about that one. It's always been in the school. It's probably a pretty ugly picture, but it's always been in the school. So there it is. In fact, this is the 1936 school picture, and here, there it is, just right there. So I don't know, it's just needs to be in the school. It needs to be in the school. So, and there is a photo book here of all the progress. And then my mother always kept all kinds of notes. So there is another book here with all kinds of notes in from her, and especially all the classes for many years of all the kids in the classes in the 1920s and 30s. So that is available if you wanted to look at that. And so I just want to thank everyone for coming and for being here, and we're going to have everyone talk a little bit more. And I did want to point out to Chris Belau just walked in, and he was our project manager, and it was because he babysat us and got us through all this. So he was a real asset to our finishing this project. So thank you very much, Chris.
Thank you.
And so of course the museum is glad to have all of you here, and welcomes any donations that you might want to make. And now we're going to have everybody who went to school here raise your hand. Wow. Okay. Awesome. So we kind of did talk about some of the events. Phyllis, back in the back row, she would be our oldest student. Phyllis. And there you are. Did you want to, is there anything else that you would like to tell us, Phyllis, about school here? Is it kind of what you remember?
Oh,
You said it looked just the same.
Looks just the
School.
same?
She said the clock looks the same.
yeah, everything was,
The George Washington picture is the same. The desks are the same. The stove,
yeah,
yeah,
pretty much the
pretty
same
much
as
the same.
it was when I was here.
Okay.
Yeah,
Are they good memories?
yeah.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
Good memories.
Loved school. I loved school. In fact, one winter day, it was 21 below, real temperature. And I was going to walk to school, mile and a half. And my parents said, no, it's too cold, you can't walk to school today. And I insisted. And I went ahead and walked to school, 21 below, and the teacher and I were the only ones there. But I love school.
Did you also graduate, I mean, you finished your years in less than 8, right? Or no?
I skipped 8th grade.
Okay,
My teacher felt that I had always been the only one in my grade. And I just kind of learned from the grade ahead of me. By the time I got to the 8th grade, I knew everything. So I just started high school.
so if you know everything, you might as well move on.
And I graduated from high school at I was 16 a month before I graduated. And then I came to Omaha and went to secretarial school.
Lived in a boarding house at age 16.
Yeah, right.
Wow.
And got my first job at Union Pacific when I was 17, even though they hired only people 18. They let me come.
And all the men were at the war.
Yeah, this was during the war, so it was all women at UP at that time.
Wow. And you were there quite a while, weren't you?
I was there 4 years,
Okay.
and then I was married and we moved to Kansas City for a while, and then we did come back to Omaha.
Okay. No? 80? 90? No?
Over here, over here.
Close. There you are, okay.
In May, I will be 90 years old.
Okay.
And I'm the eldest of 3 siblings that went to Long Creek. My sister is was just a year younger than I, and my brother is a very close friend of Jack's all this time, and I thank him for bringing me. This has really been a wonderful trip down memory lane.
Good.
So thank you.
Let's say your name because we're videoing this and we would like to have all the names.
Okay. My maiden name was Wilkinson.
Okay.
Susan Wilkinson, now in Clifford.
Okay.
Married someone from college.
Okay.
Lived in Lincoln a good part of the time after we were married. And then we moved back east for a while and came back to Lincoln, and now I live in a senior facility. Maybe some of you are familiar with what that feels like.
My sister Kathy is 20 years younger than I, and she is here. She was in the last class at Long Creek School before it closed.
Before it closed.
But Kathy, you said that wasn't true though. You know, were you in the last class?
I have no idea.
Oh, okay. Well, she wasn't sure. Okay.
When did you graduate?
When did you graduate, Kathy?
Yeah. Yes.
60.
Then that was
That's not
No, that was 60.
Carl, the last class.
No, I graduated in 59, Kathy graduated, I think in 61,
No, when did the school close?
69.
Okay, so you were in.
8th grade.
I only went to 5 grades there. It was closed when I was there.
Karen graduated out of here in
63.
63.
I graduated out of here in 1950. In fact, I went to school with Susan.
Oh.
Do you remember each other?
I can't remember her, I just remember her from them. And,
Good,
yeah,
thank you.
so, we're some of the oldest, I think.
I think so. I
Yeah.
think so. So, anybody have any questions for me or other concerns, comments? Anything?
Was there an outhouse?
There were 2. There were boys and girls. Around kind of toward the horse shed, yes. Yes, there were 2. And we do have an old outhouse that was donated to the museum. I'm not sure if we're going to bring it in or not, but we do have it put out here. We'll have to see on that one.
Zip it over on Halloween.
One thing about the Long Creek School never had a big bell. They only had the handheld bell. And we do have the big school bell from Ranch School. So out in front where that rock is, we're going to put a signage there, and the Ranch School bell will be out there. I think that's done this spring or summer. And we would have loved to bring in the swing and set that Randy still has out of his place, but since we heard about all the accidents, we better do that. There's a park right over there. I'm sure that was fun swing there, and the slide too. So after we moved to school, we went back to Randy's and leveled it all out, and now he just has a metal there. Yeah. What would you like to say about this, Randy, this whole thing?
Well, I'm sure glad that we did it. I'm glad we saved it.
Yeah.
It means a lot to people, you know. And I had a lot of fun at the picnics over the years, I'll tell you, there's a lot of stories.
Want to tell us some?
Oh. Old Book, he was a character. He was. He did a lot of things for that school, you know. I remember one time we had a picnic there and it rained real hard. And there was big ditches washed in the field below the schoolhouse. And, Book was old then. Him and his wife got in his pickup and he starts down over that bank instead of going out the driveway. I says, Book, I says, don't go down through there. I says, there's some gullies down through there. He just stepped on it harder. Him and his wife was just all over that truck. He made it, you know, it was no big deal. He had some stories.
Really large, wasn't it?
Yeah,
There were a lot.
a lot of people there. Yeah.
My favorite ice cream at the picnics is Butterbrickle.
Don, I've got a video. My folks took a lot of 8mm film, and we'll make a copy and give it to the museum. It's got a lot of family stuff on it, but it's got several excerpts that are picnics from the school, the annual picnic. And James Jensen and Luke Newman and the Stanleys and everybody was in the neighborhood. It's a treasure to see that. So we'll make a copy and bring it, but it's way too much listening to. But if we could find a way to track the CD and where that is, then we might be able to dupe that and to just have that on file here so somebody can look at that.
Well, we have this videographer right here, Kenzie. Maybe she can help us do that.
All right, I need technical advice how to do that.
Okay. She lives right across the street. We know where she is. She's in the house right across the street. Any other comments, questions?
Yeah. You know, if it weren't for you, we wouldn't have this.
Oh, no.
So we all need to thank you
It took
for getting the
everybody.
job done.
Well, thank you very much, but it took a whole team. It took a whole team of people to make this happen. Everything just lined up right with Randy saying that day and I being on the board and, you know, it just all fell into place. So here we are.